Hello. I'm so happy to be here amongst old friends, new friends, and fellow Clojure enthusiasts. I was in the hallway just earlier talking with Michael, and we were talking about one of the previous presentations, and at one point he said, I'm going to throw out my TV and work on this instead. That's the spark we get when an idea grabs us so strongly that it changes what we're going to do with our time. And that's what I really love about gatherings like these. Sharing ideas together, thinking together. For me, that's what lights a fire. I'm Timothy Pratley, and this talk is about our search for meaning through collaboration and code. It's a topic that's been heavy on my mind because more and more I find that we're inundated with vacuous messages clamoring for our attention. Across television, the news, social media, the signal-to-noise ratio is just dropping. Our world happens to be more connected than ever, with more knowledge available than ever. And yet we're flooded with messages that just lack substance. I think this is a dangerous path. It's distracting. It threatens the foundation of knowledge that our society is built upon. We risk making bad decisions, stagnation, and losing trust in each other. I realize there isn't one easy solution, but what I do know is that communicating our ideas in long form is necessary. Taking the time to fully explain ourselves and allowing others to hear us clearly. In this talk, I'll be reflecting on why ideas, meaning, and collaboration really do matter. And then I'm going to share some of the tools that I've found useful for sharing ideas. The main premise of this talk is that code is thinking made concrete. It's a medium for us to express our ideas, for us to explore and experiment with. And we can share them so others can build upon them. The main message is simple, that your voice really does matter. We must speak boldly. We must speak with substance. Together we can solve problems, make progress. And when you share your perspective, you make the world richer for yourself, for your community, and for those who come after. Meaning is purpose and significance. Why something matters. Why a design is chosen. Why a tool exists. We find that meaning by doing and talking about what we did, by making explanations and by examples. We do it by sharing ideas. I think it's worth asking the question, why should we bother to share our ideas? And Socrates claimed there is only one good, knowledge, and one evil, ignorance. It's kind of a shocking statement that directly links virtue with knowledge. Surely information alone doesn't make people moral. But modern philosophy notes that virtue can be eroded by biases, weaknesses of will, and conflicts of interest. Even so, it's apparent that wrongdoing is often born of misunderstanding and short-sightedness. Socrates' claim challenges us to fight evil with reason. Conversations, teaching, and collaboration are acts of good. This idea motivates knowledge sharing. It's good to reason together. It's good to challenge our biases, diminish our ignorance. Step by step, we can move towards understanding, and that allows us to flourish. Change is inevitable. It comes whether we ask for it or not. And change is often destructive. And destruction is loss. Constructive change, on the other hand, is deliberate. We build to replace. And how do we make constructive change? We do it through critical thinking, through evaluation, asking, does this idea really make sense? Often being wrong, being corrected. We're arguing not to win, but rather to discover and sharpen and see whether an idea really holds. I'm talking about cooperative, argumentative dialogue using methodical questions to stimulate our thinking and expose assumptions. Knowledge is good, critical thinking sharpens it, but in order for our ideas to grow, they need to travel. And so it's worth asking, how do we actually share our ideas? And usually the answer is through talking and writing. And my favorite way to share an idea is to write a blog post about it. So in fact, my main purpose today is really just to encourage you to write a blog post. Writing makes your thinking visible. It's important to be sharing your ideas, and that's how we make progress. It's how we survive. It's a foundation of human progress, technology, community, civilization. It's all built on idea sharing. Sharing ideas with code is especially powerful. Code is a set of steps written in a language that a computer can read and execute. So coding is a very precise kind of writing. And Clojure is an excellent tool for thinking. It gives us this small set of composable building blocks, and with them, we can model our ideas clearly. Code crystallizes thinking into something concrete, something logical, reproducible, explorable, and extensible. But most importantly, something useful. But code alone is not easily read. I don't like reading code, and code doesn't explain itself very well. And also, code is not widely accessible. Documents, on the other hand, contain context, narrative, and explanation. With a document, the idea becomes shareable. You can read a document, you can discuss it, and you can understand it. The main point here is that the document itself is valuable. As they say, spoken words fly away, and written words remain. I think the best documents make us think, and blog posts with code are a really great way to make each other think. They combine reasoning with storytelling and a blend of logic and narrative. As Socrates said, I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. Clay embraces exactly that. Clay is a minimalistic Clojure tool for literate programming and data visualization. Clay turns a Clojure namespace into a document. Clay renders code, results, comments, and visualizations. On the left here, you can see my editor, and on the right-hand side, you can see the HTML that Clay produced. And this is really the heart of what Clay does. So I want to reiterate that I'm just editing code with my favorite editor on the left, my favorite REPL, and I'm viewing this rich document that's created from the exact same code in a browser on the right-hand side. Clay displays a document, and that document is constructed by reading and evaluating the code. The code contains comments, expressions, and the document itself contains rich text, results, and visualizations of those results. Expressions are evaluated, and the results just shown there in the document. And the narrative is written in comments. So those comments contain heading, emphasis, lists, links, blocks, and of course, things like images. Your expressions can be annotated. Here's an example of just some data that I wanted to display as a table. And it's a regular map, normal data. It's just got a little bit of metadata on top of it. We aren't calling code, we're not changing a value, we're not making a new value. It's just metadata that's saying, hey, if you want to visualize this, well, maybe look at it as a table. And so Clay will render that as a table. Clay can do diagrams and charts. Charts are really the only way we have to compare numbers effectively. We can perceive the relative magnitude, the differences, and the trends just by glancing at it. Wherever there's data, you really, really need a chart to understand it. We need more charts. And you don't have to use a spreadsheet to make a chart. You can just have that data processing code right there and the chart living right next to it. I think this is really powerful. There's several charting libraries that you can choose from. So choose a style that works best for you. But my personal favorite is to use TablePlot. And it's very concise and expressive. It really does the fundamentals well. And it doesn't have a lot of boilerplate. I mean, look how nice this is. I'm just like mapping the columns in my data set to the axes of my chart, and I get this nice looking chart. There's many, many more kinds of visualizations, which I'm not going to cover. Personally, I think it's best just to stick with the basics of tables and charts because they explain most things. However, I like to get creative, so I'm super excited about the hiccup aspect of it, which we will look at in a bit more detail. So hiccup is this kind of Swiss Army knife where you can do anything a web page can do, such as, of course, embedding an SVG image in your page. And for me, this is like really exciting because with this thin layer, you can experience closure, but you can also create this visual thing that can really do anything. Like you can have visualizations, you could have audio clips, you can do anything a web page can do, but you're not really doing web dev. So I really enjoy that. You can obviously include JavaScript as well if you do want to do like web dev stuff, and I do. So I like including Scicloj for that. So my personal favorite way to include ClojureScript on a page, because I love ClojureScript, is that I use Scicloj. And Scicloj just interprets the ClojureScript in the browser. It doesn't have any compilation at all. So when I save my ClojureScript file, what happens is that Clay goes ahead and loads that into Scicloj, which is to say it's just evaluating the code that I saved. And so there's no compile step. It's really, really fast. It's not refreshing the page. It's just evaluating. So it's very similar to something like Shadow or Figwheel, but there's no setup. So I like that. Scicloj's really convenient for coding, and it's very easy to deploy, which is perfect for blog posts. Having ClojureScript at hand enables interactive pages, so you can have buttons, animations. You can even have a REPL right there in your page. And I enjoy using Clay to make the kind of static HTML elements in Clojure, and then I can still load in ClojureScript to do all the kind of stuff I want to do in the browser. So you might be thinking right now that, oh, well, Clay sounds very similar to like a notebook system, obviously. It's like Jupyter or Clerk. And yes, it is similar to a notebook system. But I will say that a notebook system usually has this clever cell caching kind of thing for performance, where you change one value and another value depends on that. And it has this computation graph. And Clay doesn't have anything like that. And personally, I prefer that because I just want to use my plain old Clojure code. I want to use my existing workflow and manage my REPL the way I do it, make it a regular Clojure project. Anyway, you get the point. So Clay produces HTML suitable for publishing. And you can send that to a colleague, or you can host it on a website. But Clay can also make Markdown. And that's important because Clay integrates with Quarter. And this is a fully featured Markdown publishing system based on Pandoc. It's really quite popular in the scientific community, and Quarter has many authoring features like margin callouts, margin notes, I should say, callout blocks, and themes. Everything you'd want to do some authoring. It's really well documented, it's widely used, and it's very robust. So while you're iterating, you can just use Clay to make HTML directly. And the main advantage there is speed. You can just focus on one chart, for example, work with the data, and get fast feedback. But then when you come to the time you're ready to publish, you can maybe take a slightly slower route. Clay can send Markdown to Quarter on your behalf and produce a website, a book, a PDF, or a slideshow. Quarter is optional, but I highly recommend it as it's an excellent publishing system. The point here is that different documents can they need a different format. Some of them, they belong on the web. Others you might need to just email to a colleague. So having these flexible output options enables your message to travel appropriately. And this makes Clay useful for reports, blogging, tutorials, guides. However, for API documentation, I recommend going with CLJ.doc. CLJ.doc generates comprehensive references from doc strings and namespaces. Those can be found on functions, namespaces. And Clay complements this by producing markdown articles that you can include in the reference. In the future, I really hope that we find a way to show the visual examples inside the reference itself. So is Clay literate? Well, literate programming, it really emphasizes that code should be, we're writing for humans first and the machine second. So the primary source is usually written in natural language. Much like an essay, we've got snippets of code embedded in the narrative. And the difficulty there is, well, how do you transform? How do you test it? How do you ship your code? And most editors have kind of limited support. So for me, I used to find that I'd spend just heaps of time wrangling with these documents. And for me, it really killed the joy of writing. Clay, on the other hand, takes narrative and embeds it in code. So we're talking about documents from code and not code from documents. Personally, I find this works better for me. At first glance, it might seem that comments are a bit clunky to edit, and that really concerned me at first because I really do care as much about the words as I do about the code. But I found that thinking and coding is usually the hard part, and for ideas that involve a little bit of code, probably the code should be the source of truth. Documents built from code stay in sync with the data and the logic that produced them. It's a reproducible process. Your source of truth is executable, it's version controlled, there's just less errors that way, you have less manual updates. I think this reproducibility is really important. Anyway, literate or not, this way of making documents from code definitely is reproducible, shareable, useful, and it's fun. Plain Clojure is perfect for ideas because it's expressive and concise. Clojure is a high-level language, and Clojure is reliable. It's got a non-breaking ecosystem, which is just fantastic. And, we're programmers. We like to code, and coding up a namespace, for me, is more fun than writing a document. So there's many other tools for data visualization. Why should you bother with Clay? I want to say, for me, I really love that Clay takes this simple approach. It keeps out of my way. With Clay, I just get plain HTML or Markdown. Clay doesn't take over my code execution. It's simple, and the outputs are simple, and the outputs compose really well for publishing. And other people seem to really enjoy the workflow and the results, saying, best notebook experience I've had. I love this way of building up an idea. And my favorite one is, oh, this is way easier than I thought. If you want to use Clay, you add it to your class path and call make. You pass it some configuration, such as maybe a source file that you want to make, or a single form that you just want to visualize. But normally, you'd use a REPL command. And there are about 10 Clay REPL commands. The important ones that we'll look up today are make current file and make top level form. When you're editing a namespace, you can call Clay make current file, and then that namespace is going to be rendered as a HTML document and displayed. So the panel on the right is a web page that was created from the code on the left. Sometimes you want to just focus in on one visualization, and in that case, you want to call the Clay make top level form. And that's only going to show that one form's visualization. So you'll see by default, most of the output gets shown in a panel inside your editor itself. I just want to mention that if you don't want to do that, you can just open a browser and put them side by side. There's integrations for most of the Clojure editors. There's Calvar, Cider, Conjure, and Cursive plugins. My favorite way, however, is to use live reload mode. So you just start up live reload mode, and then whenever you change a file, it'll automatically be rendered. You can do that through the REPL command, or if you prefer, you can also start it from the command line. So you can just run Clay from the command line and change your code, and you'll see the outputs. Also, the command line, you can use it to just do a one-off build an entire directory, which is great if you have like continuous integration and you want to build docs from your code or something like that. Or if you want to make a blogging website where things get automatically posted out. And that brings us to talking about, Clay is this tool for visualization. We're making these shareable documents. The main reason we want to use Clay is to turn code into a document, so something like this blog post. And we have to ask, well, where do we want to publish that? ClojureCivitas is a shared blogging space that invites you to publish your ideas. Anyone can publish any idea here. Walking in, it feels a bit like an art gallery, don't you think? To me, there's something just wonderful about seeing so many ideas together here. Each post has a unique perspective, and yet somehow they fit together into this bigger picture. Many of the articles contain rich visualizations. Some are interactive, like this one that shows how to build a game. And at the bottom of every article, this is my favorite bit, there's a link to the source code on GitHub. And that's where you can go to view the code, or you can clone the repository and experiment locally. Thank you to the many authors who have shared their ideas here. So far, there's 30 authors who have contributed blog posts, and I hope that you will join us and write your own post. There are 80 articles about Clojure, science, and life. I think there's actually 82 today because there were some more that just came in. I've found them all to be insightful, engaging ideas. They're inspiring, knowledgeable, and they're really well worth reading. They're full of substance. A big part of sharing is putting your message where people are going to find it. And so part of that is that Civitas is growing an audience through RSS feeds, announcements, and social networks. The thing I want to say here is that if you do contribute a post, people will see it. Many programmers, myself included, spend more of our time kind of working on our blog frameworks than actually writing a blog post. It's a lot of fun, right? We're working on the machinery, and it doesn't end up producing the thing that we're supposed to deliver, which is the actual blog post. So a shared space like this, we can focus our efforts on actually writing the blog. There's this term, the so-called curse of Lisp, which is that it's always living in this little niche. And I think that comes from Lisp being powerful. It's flexible. It's easy to go your own way. You can go off and build your own new thing. It can be an awesome new thing. And that freedom, apparently, interferes a little bit with adoption. So personally, I view that more as a bit of a gift than a curse. Yeah, Clojure is kind of a niche. Clay is a niche. Civitas is definitely a niche. But for me, that's where I find the fun of coding, in learning and building. And here, we're free to explore. We can change things. We can innovate. I bring this up purely because I hope that you will customize Civitas for your own purposes. It's a space where we can go deep in creativity. We can have meaningful collaboration. We can go in different directions, while still we're building something substantive together. I also want to emphasize that contributions don't have to be grand. They can be just some plain markdown or a little bit of code. They can be small, tiny, bite-sized things, and they can still have a really big impact. Visibility motivates visibility. Small ideas can aggregate into collective knowledge. Small ideas really are just as important as big ones. So whether you want to go big or you want to go small, Civitas is a space for you. Your ideas belong here, and people will see them here. It's easy to try. Fork the GitHub repository, create a namespace, write your idea, and submit a pull request. Merges usually happen within a couple of hours, and once it's merged, the site gets automatically deployed. And you've got a blog post. So Socrates said, "I'm neither Athenian nor Greek, but a citizen of the world." And the name Civitas was chosen to represent citizenship in a community with rights and responsibilities. Sharing knowledge is our civic responsibility. The struggle for freedom and rights happens outside the bounds of what popular channels are going to promote. To be visible really requires effort. Turning your TV off and doing something that you believe in. Clay is one of many libraries that were created in the Scicloj community. Scicloj is an open source community with the goal of building building the Clojure ecosystem, exploring the relevance of Clojure in fields like education, science, and art. And part of that is developing tools like libraries and learning resources. But the other part of it is through meetings, mentorship, and enabling people to use Clojure effectively at their work. Scicloj is a support system, a community of people who share ideas, interests, people with similar problems, and a practice of working together, being visible, trying things out in public, and exploring new domains. Wherever you're going, Scicloj can be a support system to help you. They hold regular meetups, working groups, and study groups. Communities like these are a place for collaboration, to labor together. Two or more people working on the same problem will see different facets of that. And together we're going to produce something that neither would alone. Many great things have come out of Scicloj collaborations. Most notably is the Nodge superlibrary. I say it's a superlibrary because it pulls in a curated set of smaller libraries, and it makes it easier to get started in data science. It's tested and documented as a whole, so you can be confident that the subparts are going to work together. Clay is in there for visualization and publishing. Nodge is a cohesive bundle of libraries providing data frames, statistics, visualization, and publishing. Everything you need for data science. And if you're wondering where the name Nodge came from, it came from Cynosure, the North Star. Nodge serves as a guiding toolkit for data exploration and clarity. My personal favorite way to collaborate is through pair programming, and I feel like that's a way that ideas can be, discussed. You can have a conversation. The other person can challenge you on things. And often you can have a bit of a laugh together, so it's fun. Personally, I really love it. I know that a lot of people are a little bit terrified of it, and I just want to say that if that's you, you definitely give it a go somewhere where it's a kind, welcoming environment, and that place is ClojureCamp. So ClojureCamp makes it really easy to sync up. They've got this automatic pair matching system. They also do mob sessions and guided learning. You mark your availability on a calendar and how many sessions you want to go to per week and just what your preferences are. Maybe you have a topic that you're interested in or whatever. And it's really a fantastic way to collaborate and search for meaning together. It matches you up with someone and you just code together. So what should we collaborate on? Well, Socrates suggests that strong minds discuss ideas, strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and weak minds discuss people. Obviously, we want to discuss ideas, so Let's ask questions, offer evidence, and share our thoughts publicly. Your voice matters, and your ideas can be beacons of knowledge. You should share your ideas, you should be visible, collaborate, because that's how we build things that are worth keeping. Change will come, and it will break things. That's just inevitable. But we can be agents of constructive change by thinking critically together. Spark an idea. Throw out your television. Write a blog post. Try Clay, try Civitas. Because together, we can bring about meaningful change.